welcome to TheAIbumMan, and today I'm going to be reviewing Great Western Valkyrie from Rival Sons, which is definitely one of the most anticipated albums of 2014. Now, Rival Sons have been a band that I've followed for a few years now. I particularly became aware of them when I got a copy of their EP from Classic Rock magazine, which has the phenomenal song Torture on it, which is still one of their best songs to this day. But particularly, I became aware of them when, I think it was in 2012, they supported Blackstone Cherry, who I went to see, and they were great live, but really, Rival Sons were just so impressive. They just genuinely were. And I picked up Pressure in Time. I have to say I haven't heard their debut album Before the Fire, their independent release. Really, for me, Pressure in Time is where it starts, and I have a pretty cool signed copy. I met the band after the show, and pretty nice guys. And the thing about Pressure in Time, it was a very promising, exciting debut record full of short, sort of catchy, Zeppelin-esque 70s rock style songs. Then in 2012 we had Heads Down, and this was interesting. This saw them expanding their sound with the epic Manifest Destinies Part 1 and 2. And of course one of the fan favourites of the album, Jordan, the beautiful ballad. And this really saw them building on the framework that they had put down with Pressure in Time, and adding some more interesting song structures and just variety. It was just overall a better experience. But with Great Western Valkyrie, and I have a signed copy of this too because it's Rival Sons, they take their upward curve to a whole new level. They genuinely do. In fact, this album, I would quite possibly say, is the best in this whole sort of 70s revival subgenre of rock, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, there's a lot of bands around trying to do this type of sound. We used to have Black Country Communion, where definitely one of my favourites in this style. Bands like Blues Pills, St. Jude, The Answer, Scorpion Child, Vintage Caravan, etc, etc. The list really does go on. It's a type of music I enjoy a lot as a big fan of 70s rock. But this album really just blows all of them away and creates, I think, one of the defining rock releases of 2014. Well, I'm not going to say this is the most innovative release of 2014, no. But this is an important rock release. The opener to this album is Electric Man. Now, there have been some great album openers in 2014, with one that springs to mind I've been listening to recently, Weight of Love on the Black Keys Turn Blue, with its proggy, bluesy weirdness, or Pink Floyd-like, I suppose. But sometimes what you want is just an all-out rock and roll song to just kick you in the ear with its fuzz-laden guitar playing and one of the best, just fuzzy riffs of the year. I mean, and then combine that with Robert Plant-like wails from Buchanan as he delivers one of his best vocal performances to date, though this album is full of so many tremendous vocal performances, it's very difficult to pick a favourite, without doubt. I mean, this song, it's just truly, as the title says, it is electric. It oozes energy and bursts with life. It's straightforward, to the point, and just delivers in a way that is quite simply stunning. They follow this song up with Good Luck. Now, here we have a song that reminds me a bit of The Doors, with Jay's vocals on the verse sounding quite sort of Morrison-like, before this kicks into a very Rival Sons style chorus, the type of thing I suppose we might have come to expect from Pressure in Time and Heads Down. Though this song is also propelled by a tight rhythm section with Miley's drums as good as ever. I mean, I do genuinely think he is a top-class drummer. And then we also have Beste in the band. I think that's his name, and he is the new bassist, settling in nicely after the departure of their previous bassist, and I found the transition pretty seamless, to be honest. He fits the style and locks into Miley's beats and the grooves perfectly, and underpins the song wonderfully. I genuinely haven't noticed much difference in the bass department, and again, they really knock it out of the park with this 3-minute rock song. With the third track, Secret, they certainly show no sign of running out of steam, with Jay's vocals wailing over the opening of the song, over this bass-laden, heavy yet groovy riff from Scott Holiday. And one of the things that this song really exemplifies, it's one of the things I think is the best about the album, is just how live everything sounds. As I said before, the amount of energy and passion that bears through this album is just quite immense. And the production, Dave Cobb's definitely given it a really live, raw, almost untamed feel, whereas with Judas Priest, Redeemer of Souls, the production tried to suck the life out of it. Instead, Dave Cobb here really hits the nail on the head, giving this warm, slightly fuzzy-ish, very retro-sounding tone to Jay's voice. The guitar tones are just freaking perfect. Every tone and sound fitting the songs perfectly from Scott Holiday's guitar, especially in the solos when the guitar sound is brought to the front, sometimes phasing between the channels, as well as having this huge chunky tone and multiple guitar parts often at once. And just everything, you can hear it so clearly. The bass and drums all set in the mix are very audible, but yet they don't overwhelm. And you could argue, yeah, like most modernly produced records, there's a little lack of dynamic range going on, but in general, the production for this day and age is of a very high standard indeed. And so is the song Secret. It really is. It's a stunning song. Play the Fall continues the sort of the trend of this opening half of the album. I'd say the opening half, we get more sort of 3-minute, catchier, sing-along, straightforward rock and roll songs. Not to say that's a bad thing in any way, because the standard of these is just incredible. And still, they add something different. While on the surface, this may seem just like a catchy rock song. Really, if you look into it, I mean, instrumentally, the bridge of this song, I mean, to me, at least, it just blows your face off with its instrumental interplay, the roaring bass and the screeching solo. I mean, just what else do you need? They managed to balance everything so perfectly. The melody, but also interesting musical diversity. And nothing could exemplify that more, really, than the next track. So after this almost pressuring time-like style fun of the four musically mature but shorter rock songs, now they decide to channel their inner Jim Morrison again with a song that really shows why this is their most accomplished album to date. This is different to anything I've really heard them do. The organ is quite prominent in that sort of Doors fashion, like Ray Manzarek ilk, with the little guitar breaks sprinkled between Jay's strong vocals and well-written lyrics. My favourite part, though, has to be when Scott Holiday's guitar trades off of the organ in the bridge, and it creates this really interesting, sort of unique but classic-sounding vibe. And Holiday on this album, he genuinely does prove himself to be seriously a guitarist to be reckoned with. I mean, you know, some I've heard say maybe he could be the Beck or Page of this era. Well, I'm not going to quite get that carried away. That's a very high honour to bestow upon someone. Let's just settle for the fact that every riff and solo he plays is riveting, melodic, and technically to a high standard. I have no doubt throughout the years we will genuinely see him blossom as one of the great guitarists of certainly this era. After the downbeat, long, good things, we have one of the highlights of the album with the big crescendo and peaking chorus of the single, Open My Eyes. Now, this was the lead single, and, well, it bloody should have been. I mean, it's just the perfect lead single for this band. It's one of the catchiest, most addicting songs they've ever written, and one of my absolute favourite of their songs. They don't play this live, then they are just mental. It takes the sort of usual single style, that type of, you know, pressure in time, keep on swinging thing, but instead pumps the chorus full of adrenaline, makes the guitarist chunkier, fuzzier, and fuller sounding, delivers a cracking jaw guitar solo, or Jay screams over the top in a way that even the greatest 70s rock singers would be envious of. Seriously, they just take their songwriting to new levels here. This is refreshing, modern, but yet still retro, still to the roots, still got that bluesy vibe to them, but it just feels original. It really is a breath of fresh air in the sort of the 70s rock revival scene. It's weird, with Rich and the Poor, I've had some people call it one of the weakest tracks on the album. which is odd. I mean, it's probably one of my absolute favourites. I mean, listening to this album again through reviewing it, I just in awe at how this album is so damn consistent. To me, there just so far hasn't been a misplaced drop in tempo anywhere, or a chorus that doesn't quite peak, a solo a little off, or a song that sounds just like the one before. Everything has sounded still in the same style. They've got a style going on with this album, but every song to me certainly is distinct. And Reaching the Poor comes into, as I said, none of the categories I've just talked about then. This is another of my very favourites from the album, with the bluesy, grooving riff, the huge Bonham-like drum fills from Miley, especially as he starts to go wild on the kits towards the end. And again, Buchanan on vocals just blows me away with the intensity and range of his voice. And also interesting, this song utilises some keys to great effect, even employing this sort of psychedelic bit in the middle, which is short, really cool, and then kind of unexpected. You don't really see the psychedelic bit coming, but when it does, it still works perfectly, even though it seems definitely different to the general vibe of the song. And that chorus, that is an earworm if I've ever heard one. Belle Starr is probably the track on this album that took me, I would say, the most amount of listens to really come to appreciate. And just interestingly, all the songs on this album have a sort of a little subtitle to them, and I think the one for this song really expresses my feelings on it wonderfully. It is the Gem Inside Sparkles Yet. And this certainly, I think, really is a hidden gem on the album at track number 8, even though a lot of Rival Sons fans do appreciate this and think it one of the best songs on the album. It really is another interesting, diverse song. I'd say in particular the use of dynamics is second to none, with moments of intensity of the main riff complemented by the beautiful guitar melody, which puts Jay's voice to the front, though Jay's voice does tend to dominate on anything he sings on, really. His voice has so much power. And in the cleaner guitar riff, I definitely got a bit of just a little hint of sort of late 60s psychedelic, which was really cool. Just a subtle amount, but it really works seamlessly in the song. The penultimate song is Where I've Been, and a fan favourite from the previous album, Heads Down, was without a doubt Jordan, the beautiful ballad, and this song, Where I've Been, really is the Jordan of the album, though I might say it's possibly even better. And fans of the song, yeah, they'll definitely be pleased to know this is certainly the same level or possibly better. I think this is a really beautifully delivered song. It's definitely the most emotive and heartfelt, and I think it really showcases just how talented the band are as a unit. Every note feels perfectly placed, and while the song almost approaches 6 minutes in length, it doesn't ever feel tiresome or too long or unnecessarily extended, especially as they start to ramp the song up towards the end. Really, every member showcases their talents, even though it's a subtler song than some of the previous sort of all-out rockers. A very interesting song, and again, Jay's voice out of this world on this track. The last song we have is Destination on Course, and at 7 minutes, Rival Sons definitely finished the album with a bang, and this is no little firecracker bang, this is like a grenade in your eardrum type of bang. Not because the song's brutally heavy, but because it just takes you on such an engaging, an unexpected musical journey that leaves you perfectly satisfied as it sends shivers down your spine, with Jay's almost haunting yet powerful vocals, and also Scott's slide guitar, which comes as a surprise and turns this song into Freebird. Well, not quite, but the slide guitar certainly works a treat towards the end of the song, and that end of the song in particular, it's just something a bit different and so interesting. There's a sort of whole jam feeling I get going throughout the song, almost Zeppelin, Grateful Dead-like jam vibe that you would expect more from a live album than you would for the studio. And as I said, this tremendous 2.5 minute end section with its sparse sounds and effects over the ever-constant rhythm just mesmerising you, and without doubt there's this sort of Hendrix vibe, and it's very sort of late 60s, I would say, without doubt. but one of the most interesting and ambitious songs I think the band have ever done, Destination, of course, and it ends what is a truly spectacular album. As I said in the beginning, this album truly is superior to anything that they have done before. Why? Well, I'll sum it up in 3 reasons. Firstly, the production feels so alive, so raw and full of energy, and full of the same energy they deliver when they perform live. Number 2, that the songwriting is more diverse and interesting than ever before. Different song structures, different lengths of things, like the bridges particularly, and the different instrumentation. There's just a lot more variety on this album than we've come to find with the band. And number 3, the big one I think, is that they've carved more of their own style than ever in a revival and a scene that often seems to be so backwards looking and so retrospective. Here what they've managed to do is they've managed to simply draw on a few influences from that 60s, 70s time period, but then really give it a modern feel. This album feels like a 2014 album. It feels modern, it feels fresh, it feels original, yet it still feels classic, still feels that bit retro, and it's still rival Sons. A massive contender for the album of the year, and I'm going to award it a near faultless 9.5 out of 10. A truly remarkable effort, and one that I recommend every fan of classic rock to check out, in particular if you're a rival Sons fan and you have no excuse. This has been the Album Man. Thank you for watching, comment, and subscribe, and as usual, long live rock and roll.